where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Livestream. Welcome to Livestream. There we go. It's Monday night. It's time for you to ask questions and me to answer them. I'm not late, Marcel off Afix FPV. I started at 1 minute till, just like I always do. 1 minute till, just like I always do. We are not drinking White Claw tonight. For those who are keeping up with what I'm drinking, it's not White Claw. It's even worse.
Between concrete walls, there's
Bye,
a
everybody.
place for us.
No. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Oh, you guys haven't seen this yet. It's the Monday night stream, so some of you haven't seen my new workbench. Oh, yeah, well, you know, I can't work off a folding table forever, kids. Can't work off a folding table forever. It's LaCroix. It's frickin' LaCroix. Take it easy. It's LaCroix. Yeah. I'm not as young as I used to be. Yeah, I got a new workbench. You guys may not have seen it yet. It is the cleanest it's ever going to be. That's for damn sure. But hopefully all the mess can end up inside the drawers. All the mess can end up inside the drawers instead of outside the drawers. So we'll see about that. People are asking about the 3D printer on the back desk. That is a Sovol SV04. They're asking if it's an IDEX printer. IDEX, I think, just means that it has two print heads It does. It's dual extruder, dual hot end. So I'm working on testing it out. Yeah. What is the brand of the cabinets? It is Rousseau. Look at this shit. Rousseau cabinets. Yeah. Look at this shit. You can do anything you want with these things. I did something relatively simple. Look at this shit. Some industrial shit. Anyway, I didn't go that direction. I went something a little simpler. But yeah. So thank you so much. I'm really excited to be able to hide a lot of my mess. That's the goal. Why is the printer sideways? It's just because, I'm going to tell you the truth, I'm not using it. It's just sitting there. And when it was this way, I looked like I had Mickey Mouse ears from the two spool holders. So I turned it sideways so I didn't look like I have Mickey Mouse ears. So I will be working on reviewing it, but yeah, the Sovol SVO4 is another thing I'm reviewing. The people from Sovol are probably wondering when I'm going to freaking get around to reviewing it. I went to Burning Man. Hey, you got to have priorities in life. Yeah, it is an IDEX printer. It is I'm really curious to see how it turns out, because the theory is that you can print, like, you could print two things at once, the same thing twice, right? And you could therefore come out with twice as fast, print twice as fast. Or you could print like your supports in water soluble filament, so you could have separate prints without having to do a purge tower. So, but I do think, I am curious, because if you're doing simultaneous prints, then your bed is going to need to be reasonably flat, or because you're not going to be able to do BL touch for both of the nozzles correctly at the same time, you see, unless it can like tilt the, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So, yeah, $539. It's a lot. $539 is a lot. I'm curious to see how it goes. I'm most excited about the potential to print water soluble supports. That's pretty slick. All right, here's what we're doing. Welcome to the stream. We're going to do some Q&A. You guys are going to ask questions. I'm going to answer the questions. That's how this goes. Sometimes I'll go on crazy rants. Just depends. Right here on my main screen, I have your YouTube chat. I'll be monitoring it. I'll be monitoring your chat. Yeah, 507RC. See, I'm monitoring the chat right now. 507RC says, how many of you want one of these dual extruder printers but really have no use for one? That's the question. Would you be better served by spending $500 on a better single extruder printer? Or is this really where you need to be? I don't know. That's a tough one. I tell you, if you are going to try to do dual filament, dual extruder, I think is the way to go. I mean, obviously, I'm not an expert. I have a lot to learn, but I tried one of there's a kind of printer which has two extruders in one hot end where it just combines the filament via Y. There's so many downsides to that. Vampire says, nope, just hot swap. Oh, man, you will be hot swapping all day if you need to hot swap. What a mess. You'd be hot. If you're doing, like, soluble filaments, you're not just doing color change, in other words. You're not just doing a color change at a certain layer. You'd be swapping filament all day. Ramton wants to know, why don't you live on Twitch? Because I have no viewers and no money on Twitch. That's the short version. Okay. Good to see you, Tony Parsons. Come on back for the replay. And, by the way, before we continue with the live stream, over here on the right side of my screen, my patrons over on my Discord server. Hello, patrons. Hello, patrons. Thank you so much for being patrons. And thank you so much for hanging out on the server and being so helpful. Have I looked into mosaic palettes, NJ Willie? I have not. You know, that's a direction to go. You really get a lot, but there's also a lot of, I'm not sure if that's more or less complicated crap. Stop uploading Google Drive. Okay, phew, that was close. I'm not sure. I got a lot to learn, but mosaic palettes scare me a little bit. So, welcome to the, yeah. All right. Here we go. Any giveaways tonight? Asks June Loco 619. June Loco, no giveaways tonight, but if you were paying attention when I flashed my YouTube screen, then my new product roundup will go live tomorrow, and I will be giving away 2 GoPro Hero 10s. No joke. I'm going to give away 2 GoPro Hero 10s as part of that roundup. So, you know, pay attention. Get ready for it. It's going to be a big giveaway. I just couldn't bear to give away only one, although they are pretty freaking expensive. They're like $400. So I'm probably, but with shipping, I'm probably going to end up spending like $900 on these things. But, you know, I want to be like Mr. Beast. That's what I want to be. I want to have 5 million, 20 million, 50 million. What's he up to? I want to have 50 million viewers, and I want to just, you know, do good in the world. And he seems to do a lot of good by giving things away. So I'm working it. That's the goal. Robinson wants to know, can Sharkbite satisfy racing? I think the answer to that question is a provisional yes, Robinson. What do you mean by what are the weaknesses of Sharkbite? It only has 200 milliwatt output power. Yes, there's a 500 milliwatt VTX. It has durability and QC problems. I'm not even sure they're still making it. Maybe they are. I don't know what the status of it is. I know they're working on a 1 watt VTX. I assume that they're going to abandon the 500 milliwatt VTX if they haven't already. So forget that exists. The 200 milliwatt racing VTX is plenty of output power for racing, right? For freestyle, you would want more than 200 milliwatts for general cruising. But for racing, you're going to run at 25 milliwatts, so the 200 milliwatt limit doesn't hurt you. The image quality of Sharkbite, I feel like anybody who says it's worse than analog, I just disagree with you. I mean, I think maybe you're looking at a YouTube video and you're like, oh, it's, you know, but I think that analog can look really good under the best conditions, but that under most conditions, Sharkbite has better image quality, more range, and it's debatable how you feel about the breakup. Some people prefer the analog style of breakup and find the Sharkbite style very distracting. Some people prefer the Sharkbite style, so that's kind of a toss-up. But if you're racing, you shouldn't be seeing a ton of breakup anyway, because you're at a distance of, say, 50 to 100 meters in an open field most of the time when you're racing. If you're like Johnny 5 and you're racing at some bando spot, you know, with a lot of multipath, maybe Sharkbite might not be for you. But for typical multi-GP style racing, which is what I think most people are talking about, it fits the bill. Durability is the big question mark. They recently released the new R5.1 video transmitter with many changes to its construction to try to increase durability. It's still new enough that I feel like we don't know for sure whether they achieved that goal, but obviously racing is going to beat the crap out of anything and durability will matter. But I feel like, you know, there's this whole, there's the preponderance of the evidence situation. There's the beyond a reasonable doubt standard in the courts, right? And I feel like Sharkbite for racing has easily passed the 51% preponderance of the evidence to say, yeah, it's, if you like it, you're leaning that direction, go for it. The other big downside is going to be price. The Sharkbite R5.1 video transmitter is like $90. Whew. It's a lot for a VTX. Even if you're buying TBS Unify Pro 32s for $50, and that's a lot for a VTX, because you could get a half decent VTX for $25 or $30. $90 for the Sharkbite is a lot. So, now License to Drive has an interesting point saying there's no way analog can be better than Sharkbite in terms of resolution. 720 by 480 interlaced versus 1280 by 720 Sharkbite. But License to Drive, be careful, because Yes, the Sharkbite signal is 720p resolution, but think about it. Think about this. I could take a 480p standard definition video. I could bring it into Adobe Premiere and I could export it as 4K. It hasn't suddenly gotten more resolution. It's just gotten more pixels. And the reason I make that distinction is that I am skeptical that Sharkbite is actually delivering 720p of pixels of resolution. Now that's just based on my, you look at a 720p video on YouTube, whatever, and then you look at 720p, look at DJI 720p. DJI is 720p as well. And you ask yourself, does Sharkbite resolve as much resolution as DJI? No, definitively not. So I feel like the resolution of Sharkbite is better than Analog, but I don't think it's full 720p. Just my gut feeling is it's not. I don't know what the actual effective resolution is, and maybe it could get better if the camera got better, or I don't know. But yeah, no in-ear audio with Sharkbite. That is true, Slow Voltage. I don't know how many racers are using in-ear audio. Rick's FPV says, what about those of us that race with a 25 milliwatt limit? Is Analog still better, or is Sharkbite? Rick's, again, the 25 milliwatt limit doesn't really affect you if you're racing. I mean, yeah, it affects you. But since you're locked to 25 milliwatts anyway, I think Sharkbite and Analog are comparable in range, milliwatt for milliwatt. I know there are many Sharkbite users who strongly disagree. There are many Sharkbite users who argue that Sharkbite has much better range than Analog. I'm just speaking from my own experience. Take it or leave it. I think they're roughly comparable milliwatt for milliwatt, but Sharkbite has much better image quality, much higher resolution than Analog. Until the point where it breaks up and then you can't see anything anymore. And I feel like Analog and Sharkbite, in my experience, milliwatt for milliwatt, they become unflyable at about the same range. But Sharkbite looks better the whole rest of the time. That's what I would say. What's the bit rate on Sharkbite? Don't know. Don't know, Mo. Good question. BeepTube, that I agree with you, says BeepTube says Sharkbite has none of the interference weirdness and flashing sky that Analog has all the time. Yeah, I feel like that's a big advantage for Sharkbite. That when Sharkbite breaks up, you get these white sparkles that some people feel are pretty distracting. Personally, I don't think they're any worse than Analog breakup. But the rest of the time, when Sharkbite is not breaking up, it's basically all or nothing. You either, for any given sort of pixel on the screen, you have a white sparkle or you have image. But with Analog, there's just like, there's all this BS trying to see through the haze. I like the fact that with Sharkbite, it's either good or bad. How does DJI compare to that milliwatt for milliwatt penetration? I feel like DJI stays flyable much further than Analog or Sharkbite, milliwatt for milliwatt. It depends on what you're doing. Like if you're Wesley Vardy and you're doing a long range flight, as long as you can kind of see the horizon, you could keep flying. Right? So your tolerance for where you consider the image to no longer be flyable. I feel like the image stops being flyable somewhere between about 2 and 5 megabits per second. When I'm flying the kind of places I fly, that's the point where I have to like go, oh, I can barely see anything. And I have to like punch out to gain altitude. But I think most people would tell you that DJI has better penetration and range milliwatt for milliwatt than Sharkbite or Analog. And DJI also goes up to 1200 milliwatts or 700 milliwatts. If you're willing to do the hack, it's just 1200. And so you get a lot more power as well. Anyway. Can we all agree at this point that Sharkbite is just Analog Plus, asks Firepower FPV. You know, I'm not sure that HD0 would disagree with you there. HC0 is the one who develops the chips used in Sharkbite, the ASICs or whatever they are. I think they're ASICs. Carl wrote me a very detailed and long email talking about Sharkbite. And one of the things he said is that Sharkbite today is a replacement for analog. It is designed to move analog pilots into the digital age. It is not a competitor to DJI. And I think that's a very honest and fair assessment. And I think that there is absolutely a place for Sharkbite to succeed at doing that. That analog, there's DJI, which has all kinds of advantages, and people love it for the reasons that they love it and hate it for the reasons that they hate it. But there are a whole lot of people for whom DJI is not the answer, whether that's because of price, whether that's because they have concerns about DJI as a company and they don't want to support it, or whether they are concerned about things like latency, right? And Sharkbite has the potential to address those things and to fit in that niche. It's not, it is better than analog. It is definitively a digital signal. So people say, oh, it's not digital. It's digital. You could argue whether it's high def, but so we'll see here. I am currently, I don't know if you guys can see this back on the bench, but I'm currently building a Umagod 250, and I decided to put Sharkbite in it. Two reasons. Number one, I just wanted a Sharkbite test quad, and the one that I was using with the 500 milliwatt VTX in it was really janky. And then also, I thought if you're going to build a sub 250 gram quad, why not put Sharkbite in it and save some weight? So I'm looking forward to that. Ghost Branch FPV is in the chat. Thank you, Ghost Branch, for being here. It feels like I'm getting ready to roast him, right? Ghost Branch and I are going to be streaming tonight. We're going to be doing some SnowRunner, right, Ghost Branch? I think we said last night I miscommunicated and I unintentionally stood him up. So hopefully I've communicated accurately, and we will be streaming tonight. We're going to be doing some SnowRunner. So Neo Flyer asks, do I really need an amateur radio license for VTX? Is it a hard test to pass? Neo, many people fly FPV without a ham license. All of them are breaking the law. And I'm not aware of any cases where an FPV pilot got fined by the FAA for flying, for using a VTX without a ham license. Unless you do something really stupid to get the attention of the ham operators in your area, like broadcast on a repeater frequency or something dumb like that, no one will care, almost certainly. Now, I have a ham license. It's not that hard to get a ham license. Depending on, I got to tell you, when I got my ham license, 75% of the stuff in the test relates to ham radio, and I just don't care about it. Sorry, ham operators. Sorry, people who love ham radio. It's just not my thing. No offense intended. So saying things like, which frequency band is the best frequency band to bounce off the ionosphere? I don't care. I just memorized that stuff. I literally just took practice tests until I memorized the answers. And then I took the test, passed the test, and immediately forgot almost all of that information. Some of that information does apply, information about decibels, and some of it applies and is useful, but it's mostly just hoops you jump through. And for me, it was rote memorization, and it's just, I have the skill to remember facts. If I just run the test enough times, I will start remembering the answers. And sometimes I understand things, but I can just memorize them. If you don't have that skill, I think maybe it would be a harder test to pass. But the FCC, yes, I'm sorry, did I say FAA? The FCC who does ham license, not the FAA. That's my bad. You no longer have to do the Morse code test run, puppy. They dropped that. They dropped the Morse code. Wesley Vardy in the Discord is, Wesley Vardy in the Discord. Hang on a second. I gotta check something. Hang on one second. Okay. Wesley Vardy is asking a question about testing. Darn it, where's the live stream chat? About testing the Sharkbite VTX with an Immersion RC RF power meter. Good question, Wesley. Bear in mind that when you're testing a digital signal, you need to set the RF power meter into peak mode. Could that be it? Let me ping him. Analog signal is average mode. Digital is peak. That could be it. That is, yeah, maybe that's it. Good, glad to be helpful. All right. Yeah, the issue is that with digital signals, the data comes in very short bursts. So if it's unlike an analog signal where the data is just constantly transmitted. Oh, bingo. Bingo. It says average right there in the top corner. That's it. That's probably the issue. So with digital signals like Crossfire or Sharkbite, you want to set it to peak mode, and then it should be closer to correct. Yes. Let's get a couple of super chats out of the way. Ooh, but I love this question from Lord Hendricks first. Lord Hendricks says, how could a crash make my video look blown out, like very white? It has to be that you damaged your camera, right? That has to be it. Wesley, 17 milliwatt seems low even in average. I mean, who knows, man? It depends on what their duty cycle is. Change it to peak and see. It just depends on what their duty cycle is, and we just don't know. Just change it to peak. Change it to peak. It's so funny to me. It's so funny. I don't know. I won't whine. It's funny to me when people, I'm not sure how to put it. I guess what I mean is it's fun. I get this a lot where people ask a question and I present them with a potential solution, and then they continue down the line of questioning. And I'm like, yeah, but none of that is relevant. We just found the solution to the problem. Is 17 milliwatts low? I don't know. Who cares? Change it and measure it right. I don't know. Maybe it's low. Maybe it's high. I don't know. All these little curiosities do lead you in interesting directions, I guess. Anyway, let's get some super chats out of the way. Thank you so much. And by the way, oh, I didn't say this. Oh my God. How could I not plug super chats? If you guys want to make sure I get your message, hit the $ right down here. Send a super chat. It'll get called out into a separate window that I will ignore for a half hour, but then eventually I will get to it. And now is that time. It's equally annoying when people want to argue with you. Like these, and I only say this to you on the live stream because we're being real. I don't want anybody to ever feel hesitant or embarrassed to ask questions. So please feel free. But you're like, I have a problem with my camera. Oh yeah, I think your camera's probably broken. It's brand new. Okay, well, I still think it's broken. Yeah, like I mean, okay, it could still be broken. Or they want to argue with you. Well, it can't be that because I'm like, well, do this thing. Okay, that's my favorite is, oh, I don't think it could be that. Okay, well, like you asked me for advice. I gave you the advice. Now you want to tell me you don't agree with my advice. That's fine. Have fun. I thought, if you knew the answer, then you would ask me. So, anyway. That's a little rude. Sometimes people are right and I'm wrong. So, anyway, super chats. That's right. I got to do super chats. Thank you, Northern Tier FPV, for a $10 super chat. He just says White Claw. We're not drinking White Claw tonight, but thank you for the super chat. Grizz FPV, thank you for a $10 super chat. I'm having yaw wobbles on throttle chops and dives. Any advice you can give me? Grizz, this is a tough one to solve because it would be great if I could see video of your actual yaw wobbles. Like, are you having prop wash oscillation? Like you chop throttle and drop, and then you get prop wash oscillation? I can't think of the same thing that would cause wobbles on both throttle chops and dives. Like lowering the throttle and getting some instability could be because you have air mode turned off, in which case the fix is to turn air mode on. Yeah, Run Puppy says, try being a mechanic. Exactly. Are you sure that's what's wrong with my car? I don't think that's it. Exactly. It's like, well, that's my diagnosis, sir. If you prefer to have a different one, feel free to take your car somewhere else. But you asked me for my opinion, and I gave it to you. Yaw wobbles on throttle chops. When you chop the throttle, usually the nose dips. UAV Tech says raise P gain on yaw. I mean, that's as good a guess as any. That's as good a guess as any. I get it. Like, you need to be convinced. You want to understand. That's what's actually happening. You want to understand. So you say, I have problem X, and I say, I think the solution is Y. And that doesn't jibe to you, and you just want to understand. And then it comes out as a question that sounds like you're arguing. I absolutely do that, and I'm sure I drive people crazy with it. Abraham says, try being a doctor. Oh, my God. Oh, yeah. I can imagine. I can imagine. Idle too low? Maybe. I like Mark Spatz with UAV Tech. Good to see you here, my friend. Mark Spatz suggests raise P gain on yaw. That probably won't hurt. It'll probably stiffen up the yaw axis, and maybe it'll help with whatever the problem is. I would really like to see video of it if I could. UAV Tech, the people over on the Discord server are offended that you're not hanging out with them. I'm just passing it on. Hectectica, thank you for a $5 super chat. I need a Cinewoop frame that can hold a 20 by 20 stack and a Caddx Vista. Squirt V2 and Taycan look good, but which would you pick? Hectectica, I would certainly take the opinion of somebody like Ciotti, who flies a lot of Cinewoops, or Paul Nurkala, or a professional Cinewoop pilot, which I am not. If I had to pick today, I probably would pick the Squirt, because all of the Cinewoop frames that are out there, almost all of them, are not designed for professional Cinewoop pilots. The Diatone, the Gep RC, all of them are designed to sort of capitalize. Sorry about that. Smack the mic. They're designed to kind of capitalize on the popularity of Cinewoops. And I'm not saying they're bad, but the Shendrone's Squirt was designed by Andy Shen for use by professionals working, and I feel like I just trust that in a way that I don't when somebody from Diatone says, oh yeah, let's make a Cinewoop. I don't mean that to disparage Diatone. They make great quads, but I don't know. Fill up the comments with a list of professionals who use Diatones. I don't know any pro Cinewoop pilots who are flying a Diatone Taycan. You know, so if you really wanted me to pick, I would probably take the Squirt. FPV Cycle Cinesplore, Ciotti suggests the FPV Cycle Cinesplore. Yeah, Bob Ruge. Like when Bob Ruge says, I made a quadcopter, like I really believe that he has taken all the ins and outs into consideration. And he's created something that you can really rely on, and that has all the little details thought of. Whereas when I think of somebody like a Diatone or a Gep RC Cinewoop, they're good in their own way. but I don't feel like they have had the degree. Like, how many hours did Bob Ruge spend thinking about and refining this frame? A lot. How many hours how much feedback did Andy Shen get from guys like Paul Nurkala about the Squirt? I just don't feel like that kind of development, that kind of effort and attention has gone into other Cinewoops. And when you're talking about a Cinewoop, you are talking, you buy a 5-inch quadcopter and you go rip it around and do flippy flops. You're just having a good time, right? Who cares? If it makes you happy, more power to you. But you buy a Cinewoop, you don't buy a Cinewoop because you want to have fun. You buy a Cinewoop because you want a specific outcome, a specific type of footage that you're trying to capture. And so I feel like they should be held to a higher standard. The Shendrone's Terraplane is the other one you would look at. The Shendrone's Terraplane is just a slightly larger Squirt. More. There are other changes, don't get me wrong. It uses larger props. It switched to rigid ducts, interestingly, and is a little bit larger, and it's designed to carry the weight of a GoPro 7 a little easier. So, Frostil says my 5-inch freestyle shopping list page says page not found. Whoa. I don't know why that would be. I'm going to guess we need to restart the Kinst. There's a cache that gets effed up sometimes. I'm not going to do it right here on the live stream because I would probably. But I am going to real quick ping somebody who can do that. I don't know why this happens. Thank you for the heads up. Yeah, those are more like prop guards than ducts. Okay. We can get that taken care of. Thanks for the heads up there, Frostal. What channel or bind should my goggles be on? Asks Coulter. Coulter, the goggles and the VTX have to be on the same channel. That's the short version. They need to be on the same channel. Assuming we're talking about analog. You can pick whatever channel you want. As long as it's not the same channel that someone else is using, you'll be okay. More or less. Cinewoop FPV, thank you for a $10 super chat. Very generous of you. I have a Lux V2 that I believe is giving me issues. Acts like it's in flip over mode, but the motors are turning the correct direction, but they ramp up to full throttle on its own. Gyro seems to be working. Cinewoop FPV, it's completely normal that if you arm the quad and then slightly raise the throttle, the motors will just continue to ramp up. That's totally normal. I made a video about it a long, long time ago. That's how long this question has been asked. If that's what's happening, nothing is wrong. Just go fly. If you can hover, you're fine. Now, I'm going to guess that you're just not expecting the motors to ramp up like that. Don't arm the quad until you're ready to fly. That's the takeaway. Or don't raise the throttle. Once you raise the throttle, the PID loop becomes active, fully active, and then the motors can spool up. So just don't do that. FPV Dartian, thank you for 10 New Zealand dollars. I've noticed that many juicy Spang pilots prefer Falco X. Is there something so different about Falco X? No. Bear in mind, FPV Dartian, that there's a lot of cultural issues here, that people see somebody else flying a certain hardware or a certain firmware, and they want to emulate them, and so they copy what they're using, and you end up with a sort of a cluster where everyone's using the same thing. It doesn't mean there's something specific about that necessarily. It doesn't mean there's something specific about that that is tied to it. In fact, I'm pretty sure the last time we talked about this, Farouk was said to be using Betaflight now. So it may be that something about the rate curve that the pilot is using, like if you use Mr. Steele's rates on KISS, when you bang the stick and do a little snap roll, it will look something like when he does a snap roll. I'm not suggesting that that's all there is to the way he flies. Obviously, that's not true. But if you have like linear rates and you bang the stick, the quad will move in a certain way. And if you have like really sharp curve in your rates. When you bang the stick, the quad will zoop and have a snap that it doesn't have. So maybe Farouk has certain rates, or whoever, and other pilots use the same firmware so they can copy his rates. But at the end of the day, you can spang on anything. It's probably just a cultural thing, why they all tend to fly that. Steve 3PO FPV, thank you for a $5 super chat. I can only answer this question because this is the American stream. Steve, a 3PO, wants to know 762 by 38 versus 224 or 556. Obviously, the American stream is going to pick 556. Not no 762 by 38. You kidding me? What do I look like, a commie? No, 762 is a great round, though. 762 is a great round. It's just, it's fired from a crap rifle. Oh, shots fired! .556 is a pretty good round. Wait. Wait, is 762 by 38 NATO? No. That's not NATO. I look like an idiot. Wait, that's 38R. No. Oh. 762 by 39. Oh my god, I'm such an idiot. The AK fires 762 by 39. That's my bad. Sorry, I got carried away there. What the frick is 762 by 38? What's 762 by 38? What fires a 762 by 38? Nagant. Is that I don't even know that round. Okay, never mind. Somebody said NATO. I was like, if 762 by 38 is some weird designation for 308, then I'm going to feel like an idiot. I don't know 762 by 38. Did you mean 39? There is a 762 by 38. It's obscure. I assume he meant 762 by 39. That's what I'm going to stand by. Okay. Moving on. Just got demonetized. Right there. That's it. 762 if it's belt fed. There you go. Afix FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. My PC won't see any flight controller in bootloader mode. Tried Zadig and Immersion RC Fix. Both run successfully. PC still won't see flight controller. It's a driver issue. I'm going to guess that you are not holding down the bootloader button. Thank you, Michael M. 308 is 762 by 51. There you go. So there's a lot of 762s. My mind saw 762 by 38, and I read it as 39. I assume he was asking about the AK round. Moving on. Afix FPV, it's got to be an issue with your drivers. Can you try on a second PC? Can you try uninstalling and reinstalling or maybe just try updating the STM32 driver? Be careful with Zadig. If you use Zadig wrong, you will screw up the driver and it'll be more difficult for you to get it working again. But if Immersion RC Driver Fixer successfully fixes the driver, you should be good. The other thing I would say is that sometimes in beta flight, there's the button, switch to bootloader mode. Sometimes the soft button doesn't work, and you can hold down the bootloader button on the flight controller, and it does work. Those are the things I would try. Vampire, thank you for $2. It says ham is good. Ham, we're going back to the conversation about ham radio. I Am Destructoman is, thank you for a $25 super chat. I Am Destructoman is giving us some Morse code. Let's see what it says. And I'm going to translate it now without showing the stream, without showing it on stream. So if it's like a vulgar message, then it won't get put up on stream. Hold on. Copy. Oh, that's actually really sweet. He says, just saying thanks. Very nice. Thank you so much. Jacob Nader 1000, thank you for a $5 super chat. I soldered new motors to my Chimera 4 flight stack, and now it won't arm or any stick input. I've flown the original many times on Crossfire Nano and TX Stillbound. Okay, Jacob Nader, let's start with the obvious. Putting new motors on your flight stack can't prevent it from arming. Now, you and I may not agree on the definition of arming, because many people feel like arming means the motors spin. But arming is a status inside the flight controller. When the flight controller detects that the arm switch has been flipped, the flight controller enters armed state. At that point, the flight controller tells the ESC to spin the motors. And the motors may or may not spin depending on many other things that could be going on. But the flight controller is still armed. So let's make that distinction. So I'm going to assume that it's still arming, but the motors aren't spinning. So then, the first step in diagnosing motors is always to start with the startup tones. Normally, when you plug in an ESC or a quadcopter, it goes doot-doot-doot, doot-doot. Okay, that's assuming you're using BL Heli 32 or BL Heli S, but it goes doot-doot-doot, doot-doot. So the first three beeps are the initialization. That's just that means the ESC has power and it's working. Doot-doot-doot. Then when the ESC sees throttle signal from the flight controller, it goes doot. And then when the throttle is at 0 and the ESC feels it's safe to initialize, it goes doot. So then what you need to do is you need to identify what the startup beeps are. Now, if the startup beeps are doot-doot, it means the flight controller is not talking to the ESC. If the startup beeps are nothing, it means the ESC is not powered up. One thing to keep in mind is that the motors are what makes the beeps. The ESC vibrates the motor coil and makes the beeps. So if you don't have any motors plugged into an ESC, then it won't beep. But here's the thing. I bet that you're having some beeps when you plug in because I don't think you screwed up all 4 motors. If you don't have any beeps, then it's got to be that while you were soldering up the motors, you screwed up the ESC, right? That's what it seems like. But those startup tones are where you start with troubleshooting anytime your motors don't spin. Death FPV says, I'm about to buy a pre-built freestyle quad, Nazgul versus Roma F5 V2. Death FPV, the Nazgul V2 can be purchased if you can find, I'm talking analog prices here. The Nazgul V2 can be found for about $210, depending on what receiver you put in it. The Nazgul V2 is not as good as the Diatone Roma F5 V2. It's still really good. But the Diatone Roma F5 V2 is $270. And that is entirely because the Roma was manufactured after the chip shortage began, and the price of all the components that go into it are much higher. So if you can find a Nazgul V2 for $210-ish, buy it. Buy them all, because you're not going to see that price for another till the end of 2022, if not longer. And I'm not making up that date. I'm talking what people in the industry, in the electronics fabrication industry, are getting from their suppliers, who are saying that the shortages will last until the end of 2022. Now, maybe that'll turn out, it would be miraculous and wonderful if that turned out to be wrong. But this is what people in the industry are saying. This is not just me talking out my ass, for the record. So if you can get a Nazgul for $200, that's a hell of a deal. It is a deal you're not going to see again for a long time. The Roma F5 V2 is a better quad, but it's more expensive. Once the Nazguls go away, then the question will be, what about the Nazgul Evoke, which is like $300 versus the Diatone Roma F5 V2? And I actually have a video about that coming out this week. So the Roma is very good, though. The Roma is very good. Ratatat RC Flyer asks, if I get double beeps from my motors, does that mean something's wrong? What that means is that the motors are beeping slightly out of sync. So normally you hear doot-doot, doot-doot, and that's because all of the motors initialize, all the ESCs initialize at the exact same time. Occasionally the ESCs will initialize slightly out of sync. And then you'll hear them be out of sync, okay? So it'll sound like there's more beeps, but what you're actually hearing is the motors are beeping just slightly delayed. Okay. One thing that can cause that is if you have music. If you have really long music, it can cause them to be out of sync. One thing could be if your motor protocol has a little bit of data corruption. So if you're running DShot 600 and for whatever reason you're getting a little bit of corruption, the ESC won't initialize until it's convinced it's getting good data from the flight controller. And if you have a little bit of like data corruption, then it can take longer for the ESC to initialize. Bidirectional DShot, big data pimp, bidirectional DShot can cause the startup tones to be out of sync because when you're doing bidirectional DShot, the ESC becomes more conservative. Before it initializes, it wants to make really sure that it's sort of locked onto the signal and isn't going to do something dangerous. So bidirectional, the ESC is more conservative about initializing and can result in them being out of sync. So what you can do is you can go from DShot 600 down to 300. It'll probably make them be all in sync. Just because the motors now Marcel Afix FPV says don't trust that ESC. I don't think that's necessarily true. Just because an ESC is slightly out of sync doesn't mean it's like dangerous. I wouldn't say that. But you can go from DShot 600 down to 300 and probably be fine. It'll probably clear those up and bring them back into sync. We got a super chat here from Morton Upshot. $5 super chat. I'm trying to connect my Caddx Ant to a new Happy Model Diamond F4 1S. Can I solder the camera power to the 5-volt and buzzer minus? You cannot. So first of all, let's just double check the Caddx Ant. Let's check the rated input voltage first of all. Because on these nano cameras, it's not always even 5 volts. Sometimes it's 3.3 volts. Okay, so the input is 5 to 25 volts. Okay, so fine. You cannot use buzzer minus, Morton, because buzzer minus is always switched. The buzzer plus is just 5 volts. Buzzer minus on a flight controller has a transistor that switches it on and off, connecting it and disconnecting it from ground. And that means that if you try to power something from buzzer minus, it won't power up until the buzzer signs. Yeah. So just use any other ground pad. There's a million places to get ground on a flight controller. Jory says you can't get the Nazgul 2 anymore for $200. Let's see if that's true. Like, not, like, just like earlier this week, I looked it up and I found it, I thought. Nazgul V2 Analog. LED version. Oh, is this analog? No. Is this analog? $280. What the F? No. It is analog. No. What are you doing? Are they going to keep making the Nazgul? Wow. They're going to keep making the Nazgul, aren't they? I thought the Evoke was replacing the Nazgul. Are you kidding me? Analog 260. Oh my God. Really? It's all, oh, they've gone up. This just happened in the last week to 10 days. I swear I was recording a video and I looked it up and it was still around for 210. It's 260 now. Can that be old stock? Or is this new stock? Are they still making the Nazgul and alongside the Evoke? I'm really surprised. I assumed that, yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, there we go. Lux V2. Ah, $200. Can I find it in stock? Nope, it's not in stock. Yeah, so I'm not crazy. It was $210. It looks like anybody who has it in stock has raised the price to $260. There you go. There you go. Quad Dock, it is not price gouging. Quad Dock, I really, I mean, if it was price gouging, I would say the price of electronic components has gone up by a factor of 2 to 5 times in the last 6 months to a year. The price of everything, from the FETs on the ESC to the voltage regulators on the flight controller, never mind the actual MCU on the flight controller, the price of everything has gone up due to the silicon shortage. No one is price gouging here. They are desperately trying to cover their costs and praying that they don't go out of business. And I say this, and I've told this story on live stream before, and I don't want to bore you, but I can speak from personal experience. The price of the JBF7, our cost from the manufacturer doubled. They came to us and they said, look, we can't sell it to you at that price anymore. We can't get the components. If you want it, your cost is going to double. And Tyler said to me, well, do you want to discontinue your flight controller, or do you want to try to sell it for $80? It used to sell for $45. And I said, I don't want to discontinue it. So there you go. We raised the price. We'll lower the price back down when our cost goes back down, I assume. But it's very, very difficult to make electronic things these days. Mike Bergman says it's more about inflation. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't inflation the result of prices raising? Inflation is when prices are... Inflation doesn't cause prices to raise. That's like saying the thermometer going up is why it's hot in the summer. I think you got it backwards. Things cause prices to go up, which then results in... which is described as inflation. So... Anyway, hopefully things will go back down again. Chill Out FPV is skeptical. China says there's a shortage and you believe him. Chill Out FPV. I know it's very popular to beat on China. Go look up where silicon fabrication is in the world. Some of it is in China. The majority of it is in Taiwan, which China would tell you is a part of China, but economically and governmentally is not. There's a lot in South Korea, I think. Not North Korea. There's a lot of manufacturing and logistical things that you could blame on China, but the silicon shortage isn't. Malaysia, says GV Pilot. China does not make, I mean, I wouldn't say they don't make a significant percentage of the world's electronics, but actually silicon fab is an area where they have not actually really ramped up the way they have ramped up other kinds of manufacturing. At least that's my understanding. I think it is as much about raw material and demand and so forth. And logistics. The price to people I know who work in logistics and shipping say that the price of sending a container of materials from China to the United States has gone up like by a factor of 10, which means that they don't want to send like half-empty containers anymore. It used to be that if you had to send a container of cargo and you didn't quite have enough to fill the container, you just go, screw it, send it. Because it was more important to get your materials to the market. And now it's so expensive to send a container that they're waiting until they have a full container, or they're just not sending shit until prices go down. All of this stuff is happening. Anyway, yeah, GemFan Hobby agrees. Prices for shipping have increased from 6 to 12 times. So, I guess, this is not the live stream where we're going to sort out all these issues. I shouldn't even try. But I guess what I want to get across is that the prices of things going up in FPV is not unique to FPV. It's happening in every industry, everywhere around the world. And it is something that every company is going to have to figure out a way to survive. Because when you double the price of things, you will sell fewer of them and you will make less money. And everybody is trying to figure out how they can make it through the next year, when hopefully prices will go down. Yeah. Anyway. What's the best 250-gram quad? Asks Anthony DiStefano. Anthony, I would pick two, and I wouldn't say that these are definitively the best. They're just the two that I have played with and like. The GepRC Smart 3.5 comes in right around 250 grams and is really, really fun to fly. And the Umagod 250. The Umagod 250 is a 5-inch. It has much better flight performance, but presumably worse durability than the Smart 3.5, but it does fly really, really well. Death FPV points out the Roma F5 V2 is in stock and the iFlight isn't. So there you go. That's the one you're going to get. Jacob Nader coming back with his question about the motors. I get all the beeps and can individually spin the motors on Betaflight as I tested for motor direction. Okay, so if you can spin the motors, then you know that the ESC is working. You know the motors are working. At that point, and you say you get all the beeps, so you know the flight controller is talking to the ESC. You can spin the motors, so you know the flight controller is talking to the ESC. At that point, I wonder whether your quad is actually arming, and I don't think changing the motors could have caused this problem. I think something else changed, and we're missing it. So I would want to know whether you were arming, whether you actually were arming. Like, assuming you're using analog, when you flip the arm switch, does the OSD say armed or whatever? Or is there something stopping you from arming? Are there any naked GoPro cases that are worthwhile? Asks Patrick Sharp. Thank you for $5. I have a Hero 8 and I would love the lighter weight. Patrick Sharp, if you decide to fly a naked GoPro, you accept that the GoPro will be damaged if you crash it. There are most people who run a naked GoPro, they just put it through a little, like a belt, right? And they just don't crash. If you're concerned about durability, you're not going to run a naked GoPro. You're going to use the GoPro case and it's going to be super durable. Yeah. Okay, we're caught up. License to Drive points out that he's got Beta FPV 2.4 gigahertz Express LRS folding TPU holders on Thingiverse, but he's waiting for Beta FPV to get back to him as they requested the files first. License Drive makes really cool receiver mounts, TPU receiver mounts. They're up on his Thingiverse. What's your Thingiverse, License to Drive? It's not License to Drive. Run Puppy FPV correctly points out that GoPros break. They do break. Naked GoPros break a lot more. That is a fact. Haku 3D. There you go. Haku is the name of the dragon in Spirited Away. I wonder if that's a coincidence or if that's what he's named it after. Yeah, check these out. What's really cool about them is they print flat and fold over. So even if your printer isn't like super dialed in, you can probably still get them printed. Pretty cool. Floppy Props asks, I bought a Caddx Orca from Race Day Quads. It worked for one day and would never turn on again. That was actually what happened to my Caddx Orca too, for the record. You'll notice I didn't review the Caddx Orca. That's why. They sent me another one, but by the time it got to me, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Should I return it? I mean, you can ask Race Day Quads if they will give you your money back or send you another one. That all depends on what kind of a arrangement they have with Caddx. Ultimately, Caddx has to be responsible for it, but sometimes the vendor will take care of you. It can't hurt to ask, though. Lord Hendricks says, Josh, I noticed a lot of people have issues with the FreeSky XM Plus. Arming issues, the RSSI channel jumping around. If the antennas are too close or touching, it won't arm. Yep. Lord Hendricks, there is a thing called front-end amplifier saturation. Basically, the receiver gets super overwhelmed when the signal from the controller is too strong. And basically, the front-end amplifier sees all this energy coming in, and it clamps down to nothing, and basically no signal gets in. So with an XM Plus and an RXSR, you need to keep them like 2 or 3 feet apart, or it'll fail safe. That's true. Am I going to make a review of the AOS 5? Oh, I don't know why I would. Mr. Steele already said everything there is to say about it. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Kevin Sumner wants to know if I can talk about the process for setting motor idle percentage. Kevin, here's the thing. If motor idle is too low, then the motor will stall and the quad will stumble or death roll. Okay? So that's step one. You need it high enough that the motors never stall in flight. Okay. For a typical let's talk about a typical 5-inch mini quad. The default Betaflight idle is 5.5%. You can usually get a typical 5-inch mini quad down to at least 3%, maybe a little lower than that. Okay? What is the consequence of having the motor idle too low, though? At low RPM, the motor has significantly less torque. And the closer you get to the stall condition, the less torque the motor is going to have. And the reasons for that are, I'm not even going to try to explain them. I'm not even sure I could get it right. But that's a fact. The lower the RPM, the less torque the motor has. So that means the absolute worst situation a motor can be in is to be spinning very slowly and then suddenly, whoop, need to go fast. Because it's going to have terrible responsiveness because it's got low torque and it has to speed up as fast as possible. It's going to lag, and that's going to create potentially handling issues that the PID controller... One thing that can happen is low throttle instability. So if your idle speed is too low, you can end up with desyncs or low throttle instability. In addition, excessively low idle speed can make prop wash worse, which a lot of people don't think about tuning. They think about tuning prop wash exclusively with PIDs. I have known racers who run 7 to 9% on their idle speed because they say that it helps with smoothing the motors and with prop wash, because it keeps, at the time when the prop wash oscillation is happening and the motor needs to change speed rapidly, it keeps the motor in the torquier range, right, and has more authority. So the other part of idle speed is, obviously, if you're inverted and your idle speed is too high, it'll pull you down to the ground faster. You'll get less inverted hang time. So some freestyle pilots try to keep the idle speed as low as possible. I don't think that's necessarily the best thing to do because it compromises low throttle instability. But there's a trade up there. There's a trade-off there. Not a trade-up, a trade-off. I Am Destructo Man wants to know why quadcopter motors aren't censored. I Am Destructo Man, my understanding of... So what's a censored brushless motor? In order for an ESC to spin a motor, it needs to know the position of the magnets on the motor relative to the motor poles. And the way a sensorless motor does that is by measuring the current or voltage induced in the coil by the spinning magnet. As the magnet approaches in the same way that the ESC can spin the motor by inducing a magnetic field in the coil by pushing current through the coil, which then pulls on the magnets and makes the motor spin, the ESC can look at the magnetic field that is induced in the coil and the current that is induced in the coil by the magnet as it spins and detect the motor's position. That's known as back EMF. The problem with back EMF is that back EMF only works when the motor is spinning. And when the motor is spinning slowly, back EMF is incredibly weak. So the way a sensorless ESC starts a motor spinning is it kind of kicks the motor to get it spinning. If you notice when you raise the throttle in the motors tab really slowly, the motor goes boom, 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 boom. It kicks the motor. It doesn't know the position. It's just like, go. And hopefully that gets enough back EMF flowing that the ESC can then detect the motor's position and actually begin commutating and spinning the motor. Okay? Well, that works fine if what you've got is a quadcopter motor with a prop on it, because it just goes boof and spins the motor and then the motor starts spinning. But that doesn't work if you have a ground vehicle like a car. Think about a car or a truck or a crawler where you need to spin the motor very slowly in a controlled manner. Maybe you've got a crawler and it's literally just crawling along. Back EMF doesn't work there. So RC cars have censored motors where there's a sensor built into the motor that detects the motor position, and the ESC has a sensor receiver pad that it can then tell the position of the motor. And basically, censored motors and ESCs let you generate torque at low RPM. Fine. We don't have censored ESCs because we don't need them. Because quadcopters, a quadcopter motor should never be spinning slowly. Right? We don't need them. Anytime a quadcopter motor is spinning slowly, the quad's falling out of the air, and we don't want that. So censored motors and ESCs would just add complexity and cost for no benefit. That's the answer. At least that's the answer, I think. The one advantage, I've heard people say, if we had censored ESCs, then when you're stuck in a tree, instead of turtle moding and going bah, 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 and breaking all your props, you could slowly kind of like the props out of the tree branches. That's true. But probably not worth it. Wasey Davis, thank you for a $20 super chat. I've just recently gotten into FPV. I love every bit of it. Thankful for content creators like you. Thank you so much, Wasey. That's very kind of you to say. My question is about prop pitch and altitude. Where I live is 8,000 feet in elevation. What sort of prop should I look for? Wasey, you are correct that at higher elevation, the air is thinner. You will want to use a higher pitch prop. If you look at the Afix line of props, there's the S2 and the S3, and then they go all the way up to the S5. And one of the things I've heard is that the development of the higher pitch S5 prop is for use at higher elevations. I would start by using higher pitch props. So if you buy a bind and fly quad and it comes with like 5x4 props, or maybe 5x3 props, 50-30, 51-30, you might move up to like a 5x5146 or a 5147 prop, or a 5x4 prop. You would want to use a higher pitch prop in order to get more thrust. If you're just getting into FPV, though, you probably don't need to worry about it. You're going to make 15% less thrust, but you're a beginner, and it's probably good for you anyway, because it means you'll be going a little slower and not crash. So as you get into PID tuning, you may decide you want to have different PIDs at higher altitude, but the first thing I would do would be to go up in pitch at least one step. So if the quad ships with a 5.1, 5.13, a 5x3 prop, or a 5.1x3, you would use a 5.1x4, etc. Okay. Thank you, Seung Yu, for 5,000 won, I think. Let's look up what this currency is. It is a won. Ah, from South Korea. Thank you, Seung Yu. What does PNP mean, and what do I need to do when I purchase one to connect it to the DJI goggles and DJI controller? Okay, PNP means plug and play, and what that means is that the quadcopter will not come with a receiver. It means that you would need to buy and install a receiver for your controller. Now, if you're buying a DJI quad PNP, if you have the DJI controller and the quad has the DJI Air unit in it, or Vista, then you will be using the Air unit or the Vista as your receiver. So I'm a little confused by that. Like, maybe they're calling it a PNP because they don't have a separate receiver in it, but you don't need a separate receiver, so I think you're probably okay. Excuse me. I think probably the quad is going to come. Well, here's the thing. If it's got DJI in it, but it's labeled as PNP, it's possible that the manufacturer has shipped it not set up to use the DJI controller, with the intent that you would install a different receiver in it, like a Crossfire receiver. But you don't need any other hardware. And I think it's very likely that it will come pre-configured. So all you have to do is bind your DJI controller, bind your DJI goggles, and you'll be ready to go. I think that's quite likely. GQ4 Life says, why would my compass read correctly on Betaflight but not on iNav? It was working before, so the settings did work before. GQ4 Life, I don't know what specific setting is causing it to read wrong. Like, did you change the compass alignment, right? But if it was working before, maybe you could restore from a backup, or even wipe the whole config back to defaults and try and figure out what the difference is between that and your current config. Go-Kart Mozart says he's got RC cars with sensorless motors. Interesting. I guess maybe if I don't know. I didn't know that. I didn't know they ever had sensorless motors because you always want to be able to go slowly. But there you go. Muhammad Shah wants to know, what are your thoughts on using Mission Planner instead of Betaflight for better GPS return? Yeah, Betaflight's GPS rescue is extremely unreliable. It's better than nothing. If you are going to lose your quad anyway, maybe GPS rescue will save you. But I wouldn't trigger GPS rescue on purpose, and I wouldn't rely on it. Like, I wouldn't say, it's okay if I lose video. I've got GPS rescue. Let's send it. It's a last ditch. The problem with GPS rescue is sometimes it works. That's fine. When it doesn't work, it is difficult to know why it doesn't work because they don't give you any specific troubleshooting information about why it did. Like, when it fails, it just disarms the quad and dumps it. It doesn't do anything smart. Like with DJI, if you lose GPS satellites, like what'll it do? Will it try to auto land? It certainly won't just disarm and fall out of the air. It tries to do something intelligent. If you fail safe, or if you lose sats, or if the compass goes wonky, it tries to do something intelligent. With Betaflight, they didn't want to do GPS rescue in the first place. Betaflight devs were not that interested in GPS. Somebody developed a GPS rescue and submitted it as a pull request, and it got merged. But it is not got nearly enough development in it that it would be something you could actually rely on. So you activate GPS rescue and the quad falls out of the air and you never see it again. Or maybe you go retrieve it. You're like, and then you email me and you ask, hey, I tried to activate GPS rescue and the quad fell out of the air. Why? And like, there's 2 or 3 things I could guess as to why, but I don't know. Because it doesn't show you in the OSD. It doesn't say, why it disarmed or which specific sanity check failed. So you can't really verify that it's going to work correctly, and you can't really know when it fails, why it failed. And then sometimes, like I swear I checked this DVR. Somebody sent me a DVR this week of a GPS rescue situation where the quad just started flying the opposite direction from the home arrow. Now, I know what you're thinking. If the home arrow points the wrong direction, then GPS rescue will not fly. It'll fly somewhere else. It was flying literally the opposite way that the home arrow was pointing. And I was like, okay, what's up there? And it just flew itself into a tree. So if you really care about return to home, fly iNav or fly ArduPilot. That is legit. Betaflight GPS rescue is in some cases better than nothing. It's better than losing your quad, but I don't think it's can be really counted on. Joe Muro asks, can you mismatch brands of motors as long as they're the same KV? I've never seen someone do that, but I'm curious if you can. Yeah, totally. In fact, there was a test someone did a while back where they had different size motors and different props on all 4 corners, and the quad still flew pretty okay. Sit and Fly wants to know what Wesley Vardy uses on his wings. I think it's iNav. Yeah, it was the Franken quad. That's exactly right. Yeah, to get really... Madmax FPV, you're correct. To get really good GPS flight, you need a good compass. And Betaflight doesn't require a compass, although it will try to use one if you have one. I think it will. And the reason Betaflight doesn't require a compass is that on very small quads, the compass data is usually so noisy from all the electrical noise that it's basically useless. That's their argument. Uh-oh. Wesley Vardy says going to peak mode didn't make much difference in his Sharkbite's output power. Calibration, are you on race 8? I see you're on 5900 megahertz. Are you on race 8? I see that peak mode didn't make much difference, though. So, yeah. Press it together. Maybe the MMCX connector has gotten loose, Wesley. Those double stacks are notorious, though. Squeeze it a little. See if that MMCX connector is wearing out. Alan Fields, thank you for a $2 super chat. Who has TBS Tango 2 Pro in stock? I don't freaking know, dude. I appreciate your super chat. I saw you asking in the chat. I have no idea. Who has the chat? Who has the Tango 2 Pro in stock? Nobody. The Pro? I don't even know. Yeah. The Pro is on pre-order. If you want the Pro, yeah. I mean, I'm going to spend like 2 minutes searching since you gave a super chat, but I don't... It's not in stock. The Google search result says it's in stock. I don't believe it. Tango 2 Pro. Who's got it? Back order. The Pro has always been hard to get. Tango 2 Pro, currently unavailable. Tango 2 Pro, out of stock. Nobody's got the Pro, I don't think. The Pro, the only thing the Pro has is the foldable gimbals, though. Are you sure you want the Pro? Why not just get the Tango 2? Why not just get the Tango 2? The folding gimbals are okay, but they're not like the end of the world. Ooh, FPV exchange. That's a great idea. FPV exchange is a great place to buy and sell FPV stuff. Let's see if they have any Tango 2 Pros listed. Here is a Tango 2 Pro. I don't think we need to be in... I think we'd like... Are you in the United States? Netherlands, Czechoslovakia, Great Britain, United States. No, it's Banggood. I don't believe it. Quantity. I don't believe it. That's a lie. I don't know, man. I think you're out of luck. Check FPV exchange, I guess is what I would say. Cross your fingers. People are saying check Defiance RC. The folding gimbals are... Oh, I mean, it's not like the standard gimbals just break. That was the thing. Hello? People saying check Defiance RC. Tango 2 Pro. Pre-order. Nope. Why is the Tango 2 Pro so hard to get? Because they didn't make a lot of them. Because not a lot of people want to pay more for the folding gimbals. So when they had the choice to make... And by the way, kudos to TBS for not being shitheads about this. They only had enough components to make a certain number of radios. They could have made the Tango 2 Pro and said, hey, if you want a Tango 2, F you. Pay me $200 for the more expensive one. But they made the cheap ones because that's the one that people wanted. Kudos. Eris Hobby. Really? Uh-oh. One Eye FPV in the Discord is going to come to the rescue. Let's see here. Tango 2 Pro. It appears to be in stock. Oh my god. It is in stock. Oh my god. Well done. Well done, One Eye FPV. Eris Hobby says they have it. There you go. Orga says flyingtech.co.uk also has it and then shipped to the US. Let's see here. It's 229, not 300. 229. Hey, I mean, come on. The fact that they have it at all, for God's sake. Okay. I can never find the damn live stream chat channel after I click away from it. What is wrong with me? Why can't I find the there it is. Hallelujah. Are they out of stock yet? They say 21 available. 9 available. I'm not shitting you. It just went from 21 available to 9 available. I swear to God, in the last 3 minutes, it just went to 9 available. That's freaking hilarious. That is freaking... Oh, because I switched... Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's because I switched warehouses. I'm sorry. It's when you reload the page, it goes back to the China warehouse. Okay, I take it back. Thank you very much for the chat for helping out with that. All right. Ender88 says folding gimbals fold while you're flying too. I don't think that is likely to happen. They're spring loaded and they kind of settle down on themselves in a way that means that you have to literally pull them up. I don't think that's likely to happen, but I guess it's not impossible. I just don't think the gimbals are fragile enough that they're likely to see damage when they're not folded, even if you just chuck it in a backpack. Tony Parsons, thank you so much for $2 and taking extra breaks at work just to listen. Dang. Remy Tim, thank you so much for the kind words. I have the same influence on FPV parts stock as Elon does on Dogecoin. I wish I could make as much money from it as Elon does from Dogecoin. That's for damn sure. Hey everybody, Dogecoin is awesome. I bought some yesterday. Sell. That's not stock market manipulation though. No. That's completely legit. Completely legit. Run Puppy FPV is looking for TPU for the horned arms of the JB freestyle frame. Hang on 1 second. I will help you. I have that for you. It is here. JB horned arm with skids. I will put that in the chat for you. Right there. I don't see the point of folding gimbals, says Random TV. I kind of agree. They're cute, but yeah. Oh, do you guys want the link? Do you patrons want the link too? All right, fine. Bigger horns, please, says Mike Bergman. I mean, it was hard enough getting a separate set of horned arms, so. Stans FPV says, I have a brand new 6S 1550 that I discharged and one cell stayed fully charged. I don't even understand how that is possible, Stans FPV. So I would first suspect that something is wrong with however you're checking the battery voltage, but okay, definitely something is effed up in that whole situation. Yeah. Yeah, like your balance plug is broken or something. If you were powering it off the balance plug instead of the main discharge lead, if you're powering it off the main discharge lead, I don't think it's possible. Like, some of the cells can be higher than others based on their internal resistance, but if you're discharging through the main discharge lead, you cannot end up with one fully charged cell. I don't think physics works like that. Or chemistry. Wicked says, I bought a used B-Brain V1 and it won't bind with my Radio Master TX16. What? Yeah, Bad for Life says maybe he discharged it in the charger and the charger screwed up. Yeah, but Bad for Life, the charger doesn't discharge through the balance leads. Does it? I think it discharges through the main discharge lead, in which case the same problem would happen. How did you discharge it? That's the question. Wicked, what receiver is on your B-Brain V1? That's the thing we need to know. If Ciati were here, I bet he would know right off the bat. Is it the V1.2? Could it catastrophically rebalance? No, Mad Max, that's not how it works. It won't work like that. The charge cell, they don't auto-balance in series, so you're fine there. It's just weird that the battery did that. B-Brain V1.2. What I'm trying to figure out is, first of all, Newbie Drone, get your SEO fixed, because Get FPV should not rank higher than you. Hang on, let's do it in an incognito window. Nope. Newbie Drone, your SEO, Get FPV is crushing you. Why would Get FPV show up above Newbie Drone in a search for the B-Brain V1? But okay, let's get on with our life. Ciati thinks it's the B-Seaver. Is this one, Ciati, does this one have the built-in receiver or does it have the external receiver? That's what I'm trying to figure out. It's the B-Seaver. So the answer to your question depends on what Wicked. The answer to your question depends on what receiver is in there. You need to know what, and then you can try to bind in. You can try to bind in FreeSky D8. You can try and bind in FreeSky D16. Either of those would probably work. Blake Terra says, why so much hate on the DJI Osmo Action in FPV? $200 has pretty good quality and features. Lots of great reviews rating it higher than the Hero 8 and holding its own against the Hero 9. Blake, the biggest reason that I don't use the DJI Osmo is the field of view is not wide enough. If you look at some of the Rotor Riot has a couple episodes. Let's pull it up. Hey Jamie, pull up that Rotor Riot episode. I don't have a Jamie. I just have me. This episode was filmed with the Osmo, I believe. I'm pretty sure it was DJI sponsored, and that's why they filmed it with the Osmo. Let's just double check that. I'm pretty sure they would say, yeah, camera, DJI Osmo Action. So this episode was shot with the DJI Osmo Action, and if you look at the drone footage, let's find some drone footage. Talking. It's like up here, it's okay. It does not have the wide field of view, though. In fact, I was like, hey, Drew, what was going on? Did you accidentally have that set to linear? And he was like, no, that was the Osmo. It looks like you accidentally forgot to turn Super View on. And like, look at this shot right here. Look at the field of view in this shot as he's like angling down to speed up. Do you see you just have no vertical field of view? Like, it really feels cramped. It really feels like he left it in linear. Like, you just can't see. And it kind of works for some of these shots, but for most freestyle stuff, nah. It needs super view. It doesn't have wide enough, or a wider angle lens. So, that's why I think people don't use it very much. Bushy the Bird is trying to bind a TX16S to a quad with an RXSR receiver. Select Protocol Multi FreeSky D16, or on newer firmwares it's FreeSky X, but it's FreeSky or FreeSky X D16. It is not FreeSky X2. FreeSky X2 is for the V2.1 firmware, and they're not currently shipping the RXSR with that firmware yet. Anthony King wants to know when the Nebula Pro is coming back. Anthony, I don't know. I said on previous live stream, I know retailers with orders in who have been told by Caddx that it's coming soon, but the date keeps getting pushed back, so nobody knows. Soon. If you have more money than you know what to do with, the air unit, the Caddx air unit is in stock right now, and that camera that it comes with is basically a Nebula Pro. You could buy an air unit, put the camera on your Vista, and then dispose of the air unit in some way, like, I don't know, by selling it. It would cost you a ton of money, but it would be a way to get a 120 FPS camera today. Chris Foy wants to know my thoughts on the new iFlight Nazgul 5 Evoke. I have a full review of the Evoke coming up on my channel this week. It is in editing. It was edited today, and it may post tomorrow, so I'm going to save that. The big question is, the Nazgul Evoke costs $300. The Diatone Roma F5 V2 costs $270. Is the Evoke good enough to justify a $30 price premium compared to the Diatone Roma F5 V2, which is very good? That's the question. I'm not going to spoil the answer. I hope you'll watch the video tomorrow. What's easier to find, a GPU or a Nebula Pro? Asks Lolo's Lab. I think a GPU is easier to find because they made more of them. It's just going to cost you a lot of money. Nebula Pros you may not even be able to find depending on where you are. Yeah, Huff19 says, I have an OG air unit with no camera. Not sure what to do with it. I have over on my closet a Cinewoop that was sent to me for a review, and it has a DJI air unit in it. And I haven't flown it since the review, and I regularly think, I should put it in a giveaway. But I kind of don't want to give away the camera because the cameras are so rare now. One IFPV says, JB, Caddx is so disconnected from reality. If they sold the Vistas with the new cameras, they would sell them all in a few days. Hey, One IFPV, I got news for you. They're going to sell all of the air units. They're going to sell them all. So they're doing the thing that I praised TBS for not doing. Caddx is making the air units, even though the majority of the FPV community wants Vistas. In my opinion, I think that's true. They're making the air units, and I think they're doing it because they make more money off of them. They could take those same cameras and they could sell them with Vistas. And we know they've got Vistas because they're selling Polars. So they're selling the Vista VTX with the Polar camera, and they're selling the Nebula Pro camera with the air unit VTX. That's not what we want. And I think they know it. I assume they know it. They're like, oh, hey, you FPV pilots want the smaller, lighter VTX. Enjoy your Caddx Polar camera, which doesn't do low latency. Sorry. Give us your money. Oh, you want a good camera? Here's this big heavy air unit that you didn't want. And then, you figure it out. I mean, they should just... Why can't we just buy the camera by itself without the air unit, without the VTX? Because if they have enough supplies to make 1,000 cameras, what are they going to do? Are they going to make 1,000 air units and sell them to you with the camera and make $200 a pop? Or are they just going to put 1,000 cameras out there with no air unit and make $80? No brainer. So there you go. I mean, the vendors know what we want. And the vendors are asking Caddx. They're trying to put orders in with Caddx. And Caddx is making what they're making. Run Puppy FPV says a range test with an air unit is pointless. I disagree, Run Puppy. Only because when the Vista first came out, people did range tests with the Vista versus the air unit. In low multipath environments, the Vista does similar to the air unit. The air unit's dual antennas only really come into play in high multipath environments. That was the result. Thank you, Daltz. Oh, no super chat. Just happy birthday, Daltz. Happy birthday, man. Brad Henderson wants to know what I think of the Aerialvation Cinestar. The Aerialvation Cinestar. This is... Stop. Can I just... Oh my God, your website is annoying me. Just... Stupid. Okay. This is the Aerialvation Cinestar. Now, if you're looking at this and going, well, that looks like a Beta FPV 95X with a naked GoPro on it, you're sort of right, but sort of wrong. Now, here's the part where you crap your pants. Get ready. Because, where's the kit? Here we go. This kit, with a decased Hero 8, start doing the math, with a TBS Tango 2 and DJI FPV goggles, $849. Wait, no, sorry, that's misleading. Caddx Vista, $998. Receiver type, let's go Crossfire. Oh, no additional charge. That's nice. GoPro front LCD, nah. FPV goggles, nah. Let's assume I already have FPV goggles. Radio, nah. None of this stuff. Battery kit, out of stock. Oh, well. Memory card, none of this stuff. So here is the quadcopter with a Caddx Vista and a Crossfire receiver. Is that right? $1,000? That cannot be right. Included hardware with bind and fly. Cinestar drone. Beta FPV 95X frame. Caddx Vista. Emax Eco motors. Custom all BS. Blacked out BS, whatever BS. GoPro Labs firmware. Yeah. So they're charging, as near as I can tell, okay, the Hero 8, the naked Hero 8, let's say that's a $400 item. That's what GepRC sells there for. They're still charging you $500 to $600 for a Beta FPV 95X with a Caddx Vista. Now, that's the bind and fly. The ready to fly kit. This is the ready to fly kit. Receiver type. Crossfire. No. Goggles. With the goggles. Sure. Radio. Tango 2. Sure. $2,200. Now, these guys reached out to me and asked if I wanted to review their product. And I said, I don't think I'm the right guy to review this product. Because Paul Nurkala reviewed this. Paul is a professional Cinewoop pilot who flies drones for big-name Hollywood directors, films, Mark Rober on YouTube. And it is a known fact that professionals who make money with their gear pay a shocking amount of money for their gear. But the Corridor Crew guys made a video about why Red Digital is so expensive. And one of the points they made, if I could sum it up, is that when you paid $50,000 to rent a tank for today so you can get this shot, when you have a crew standing around, a crew of 20, 40, 50 people, every single one of them is getting paid today. You have pyrotechnics. When you have $100,000 invested in a day of shooting, you don't want to risk having that all fall apart because your $5,000 camera crapped out on you. So you buy a $20,000 camera. There's another story that I think of at times like this. It was when we were visiting with Daniel Riley. Daniel Riley is RC Test Flight on YouTube, and he works for Free Fly Systems, who makes the Alta cinema drone. It's a gigantic, 1.5 meter or something cinema drone. Carries a red digital camera. And we shot a scene in a Rotor Riot video using a red camera, and Daniel ran the camera. And Drew was looking at the monitor and going, Daniel, he said, what makes it look so good? And Daniel looks him dead in the eye and he goes, the money. So you invest money in gear, number one, because you want that last nth of a % of assurance that you're going to get what you need out of it so that you don't waste everybody else's time and money by failing to get the shot. And you invest money in gear because it produces higher quality. And that last nth of a % costs you a lot of money. Now, the big question is, for whom does it make sense to pay $500 for a Beta FPV 95X? Not me. And that's why when Ariel Vation said, hey, do you want to review this? I was like, listen, dude, I didn't say this, but I was like, I'm just going to shit on it and say it's too expensive. But that's me. I am a heathen. I'm not qualified. You hand me a red digital camera and I'll be like, where's the SD card go? What do you mean it doesn't have a micro? You mean it doesn't have autofocus? Freaking $40,000 camera doesn't have autofocus. Can you believe this? So I was like, it's not for me. You want to know what to think of this? If you're not a professional who's making money, don't even think about buying this. And if you are a professional who's making money, I'm still not saying it's worth $500, but you might go look at guys like Paul Nurkala who reviewed it and see what they have to say. Paul, I'm not going to spoil Paul did review it. And a lot of the people in the comments of Paul's video are like, Paul, are you freaking crazy? Because he didn't just blast it. I'm not going to spoil his review. You go watch his review if you want to see it. He didn't just blast it as ridiculous. And a lot of people in the comments were like, Paul, how much did you get paid for this review? Are you selling out? Are you crazy? And it's like, no, it's just not a product for you. So I think it takes some balls to ask $500 for basically a tweaked and tuned and upgraded Beta FPV 95X. But somewhere out there might be a professional who wants to be able to use it and is willing to pay for it. So anyway. Yeah, Cyclimbo says, when time is money, equipment that just works is cheap. Yeah. If you are if you are a professional drone pilot and let's say you're a professional drone pilot like a Paul Nurkala or an Aaron Ciotti who's in the chat. By the way, Ciotti's going to be live streaming at 10 when I finish up, so he'll start posting the link to his stream. If you're somebody like an Aaron Ciotti or a Paul Nurkala who makes money flying, and maybe there's a shot where you need something smaller than a 3-inch. You need something that's like a 95 millimeter. You can't do it with a 3-inch for whatever reason. I mean, you're not going to use a Beta FPV 95X. It's gonna be all vibraty, jello-y. It's gonna have all kinds of problems, and you're gonna spend a lot of time tweaking a 95X to try to get it to fly right, fly reliably. So for these guys to charge you $500, how many hours of your time is that worth? Well, there's a number. So anyway, there you go. My first thought was this is ridiculous. So I declined to review it. License to Drive makes the analogy to a Prusa Mark III. Yeah, Prusa Mark III. Everybody who buys one says basically, if you are more interested in printing parts than frickin' with a printer. And the thing is, a Prusa Mark III. Well, actually, that's not too far off. Prusa Mark III costs 3 to 4 times as much as an Ender. That's approximately what this Cinestar is compared to a regular 95X. So, anyway. But, yeah, Jeremy Sarge says it won't have blacked out wires, though. The other thing to keep in mind, like, you see this with military contracts. Not that I'm like an expert on military contracts, but government military contracts. Whenever you bid on a government or military contract, you are going to get put through the ringer. It's never going to be just like, here's your stuff. Okay, here's your money. Thank you. Have a nice day. Oh, no. You are going to get put through the ringer in so many ways, both pre-sale and after sale. So, when you bid on a military contract, if you bid it as if it was a civilian contract, you're gonna lose money on your own time, if nothing else. And the same is true of professionals. You buy a professional gear, you want support from the company. If I buy a Red Digital camera and it breaks in the middle of a shoot and actors are sitting around not working, I damn well expect somebody at Red Digital to drop everything and help me. I'll probably pay for that, to be fair. But the after-sale support is something that professionals expect that plays into the price. And I don't know if Cinestar is doing that, but hopefully they are. Oh, anyway. DQ says Prusa's bill of materials cost is $250. Bill of materials costs are deceptive. When you have a product as good as the Prusa, AMR Madden, I'm removing your comment. If you do it again, I'm going to just ban you from the channel. That kind of shit doesn't need to be here. Give me a break. When you have a product as good as a Prusa, the fact that when somebody designs a quadcopter frame and they say, but I put so much R&D into it, I need to be compensated for my time. Sometimes somebody like Kebab says that, and I'm like, oh no, I feel like every minute of every day that he's not working on teeth, he's thinking about quadcopters. And sometimes you look at it and you go, yeah, not so much. With the Prusa printers, there's no question that it's not just the parts, but it's all of the work they put into developing the platform. So, yeah. Anyway. Alrighty, guys. Any super chats? Oh, I've missed a super chat. Hold on. Marcel Off-Axis FPV says, what's your opinion on the RunCam hybrid versus the Caddx HD FPV cameras? Ciati uses the RunCam hybrid. So and he says it's the only one that's worth a damn. So that's the only hybrid style camera, the split style camera that's worth a damn. So I lean on Ciati for that one. People are pointing out that there are Prusa knockoffs. Prusa is open source, so anyone can make one. That's the beauty of it. Ghost Branch FPV and I. So, Ciati, I have to apologize to you, Ciati, but I'm going to stream over you tonight. It's going to be a lame, boring stream of me and Ghost Branch. Sorry, Ghost Branch. Me and Ghost Branch are going to play SnowRunner together, multiplayer. This was the time that worked best considering he's in Germany and I'm in it's like 4 in the morning where he is. I don't know why he's still awake, but he said it was fine. But we're going to stream as well. Hopefully it won't steal too many It's too many of your viewers. If you had SnowRunner on PC and could stream, you'd be welcome to join us. But there's no crossplay right now, so we're gonna wrap up right now. Ghost Branch, I will catch up with you in just a minute. I'm gonna go run and use the bathroom. Come back down. I'll catch up with you in a minute. Ghost Branch, we'll get going. Everybody, have a good night. Ciati, have a great stream. Good night, everybody.